All right, well, welcome to, I guess this is podcast for us number 2.
Episode 2.
Yeah, I guess the official, unofficial name is Frontlines. I think we need some cool theme music here in the near future.
Cue it.
Yeah. But today, our goal with this podcast is to kind of share, some of our insights into the industry for some of our newer reps who already are on the team. And today specifically, we're going to be talking about, onboarding, kind of what that process is, some of the major roadblocks, and kind of share some insights. So, as you onboard, you can kind of refer back to this episode and go, oh yeah, I remember when Jordan said this about, the strategic agent agreement, or, and Tate was like, hey, this is what a field agent does. Or like, oh yeah, I remember when Rich said, keep a checklist of all the carriers that you've selected on your contract. So let's just get right into it. So, onboarding, I feel, is kind of one of those things that it's like everything kind of hinges on that. It's like the most important step. And a lot of agents, expect like this, I've filled out a contract and I'm going to make money tomorrow. And they don't realize it's a process. And, I tell agents, start to finish, 3 to 4 weeks is fast, right?
Yeah.
3 to 4 weeks is fast, if you don't need a release, right?
Yeah.
If you need releases and we start talking intents to transfer, it can definitely kind of push that time frame out. But I like to say, like, hey, you're probably like 2 months, depending on how many carriers, how much stuff you have to do. And so again, just to kind of lay that out for you guys, it's, hey, I've filled out a contract, whether I'm strategic or field or direct pay, whatever it's called, right? What happens next? So that the next step is, hey, couple hours or a couple days, whatever, I get links. I need to complete those links, right, from the various carriers. And then, whether now that could be like certifications. Do I need to do FFM? Do I have to, submit my AHIP? Do I even have an E&O cert? Those kind of things that come up. And now we're going into, systems access. Like, hey, because I get this all the time. I fill out a contract on Thursday and Friday morning I want access to Sunfire. And it's like, great. You can't even write an app yet, right? You're not even ready to sell. And so we're going to kind of break those kind of steps down for you today and kind of I always like to start with, let's just start with a contract. Now you've decided to join our team in one capacity or another. So you're, let's just talk field agent first.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're a field agent, right? It means you're getting direct pay. You filled out a contract. The links are the same. What are, Jordan, Tate, what are some of the, do either of you have field agents on your team? You have a couple.
We got a handful.
What are some of the questions you've gotten from your agents kind of, from that first step after the contract's filled out? Like,
Well, just like what you said, like what time is it going to be when can I get started? And I'm glad we're actually talking about onboarding in this process because it's not the same for everyone. It's a completely different path. I mean, there's a lot of same stepping stones along that path, but how you get there is going to be different for everybody. So with field agents, a lot of the times it can be easy, it can be harder. A lot of the field agents will have their own E&O.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys didn't know, we will cover your E&O as long as all of your carriers that you're licensed with are under us, because we can't cover you under a different carrier. Correct. So, but like that's just one of the things there. And then releases, depending on who their previous upline was, that's going to be a different process there. I mean, I've had people where I have about half the carriers right now, but they're waiting on kind of the other half. They've put in their intents to transfer because they weren't granted an immediate release. We'll go into releases a little bit further, deeper here. But with field agents, you're going to find a variety of different things of what kind of roadblocks and setbacks they have.
Yeah, I mean, one big question I have a lot is just for like a genuine field agent, not someone who's brand new. I typically is around kind of like leads, our systems. Yeah. What do I have to pay? What's this? What's that? And having that conversation of, hey, look, this is what we provide to you. Hey, here's a refresher. Here's what you would have to pay for. Here's what the option that you have, as well as kind of going hand in hand with the money. I get a question a lot of times from field agents about their pay. Oh, do I need to give you guys my banking info? It's like, no, you're directly paid with the carriers, that we don't handle your commissions. They come to me down the road. What's going on? I have no idea, man. We don't handle that. So that's another one.
Just as a side thing, if you are a field agent, keep track because we don't handle any commissions. So keep track of your business there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in each carrier for that field agent, just so you know, right? Like, when you're completing those links to onboard with the carriers, there'll be a spot in there for you to put in your banking information. And so, and then, caveat to that as well, each carrier has its own commission schedule, right? United, Humana, Aetna. I saw an email this morning from one of the carriers that, hey, they're going to delay AEP commissions another week or two or something like that. So again, that's on you, as the field agent. You're running your own business to kind of monitor that and track, like Jordan was saying, track your sales, track your commissions. That's all. That's you managing your business, right? And so for like, I'll touch on like strategic agent or our internal team or LOA, whatever it's been called in the past. Like, I get a lot of those agents on board, and you guys will back me up on this, is they're usually they come to us from like a sales, telesales environment, and they're kind of used to somebody else doing everything for them, right? Like, someone tells me I'm ready to sell, someone else has completed the link or something to that effect, and I, and they think it's a quick turnaround. Like, again, like I, got onboarded an agent last week on Thursday, filled out his contract, hadn't even received links yet, to onboard. And then the next day he's asking me for Sunfire CRM, E&O, like every single thing under the sun. And I'm like, and then lo and behold, I actually reviewed his contract. He didn't even select a single carrier. So it's like, you've kind of messed up step one, right? And so that's another thing, to put out. If you filled out a contract, just make sure that you've selected carriers, right? Because you push it back another 2 to 3 days, not selecting carriers on the contract.
Yeah, because what's going to happen if you don't select carriers, either us or contracts, and reach out and be like, hey, we don't know what to send you because you didn't tell us what to send you. Now, I mean, if you're one of the strategic sales agents, you have the core 4 that you're going to have. But we still need to have that in a contract in writing, so we have that official, just for legal obligations and liability. And a lot of what you're kind of alluding to is a lot of these steps that you have in the contracting phase. After you filled out the contract, they're not just auto appear. Oh, here's this. You got to be diligent and be keeping track of your emails. Hey, I'm getting this. And if you're not seeing something, 100% ask the question of, hey, I need some help with this, or why don't I have this? And we'll help you get through the process. I mean, in my own Slack channel, I have my Calendly link, so you can set up a meeting with me. Hey, I don't have this. Okay, let's
that's another thing. Speaking of Calendly links, after you onboard / fill in the contract, you get a link from our contracting team. So if you ever have questions, feel free to reach out to them, right? You're not like, that's their job to help you. And same with whoever your team leader is, right? Like, always CC one of us on your email, so we're in the loop too, because we don't know if you need help or not, right?
If you're only talking to contracting, that is.
Another thing is, like, a lot of questions I get from the strategic agents with the internal team is, obviously it's the 4 carriers, but then it's like, well, why do I got to do United, Anthem, whatever, right? And it's like, and I always tell them, hey, listen, like, that the opportunity on that team can change at any moment, right? And so it's better to do it now. And like, looking into the future, it's like, if you didn't do it now, the opportunity is going to come during annual enrollment. And all of a sudden, that carrier that we've added, you didn't move your contract and it's in lockout. And so you're missing that opportunity. So always align all your carriers, even if you're on that internal team.
Yeah, that's just one of the reasons why. And being transparent, the other reason we chose those 4 carriers right now is because we have special agreements and contracts with them. They're giving us, funds and resources to go sell their plans. They're not going to like it if we take their money and then sell somebody else. Like, okay, thanks a lot for that. At the same effect of that note is, like, we don't want to have your other contracts with those other carriers that you're not selling with us. We don't want them under another agency, so that you're doing that, like taking our leads and then selling them for company ABC, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, and to put it just quite frankly, in the contract that you sign that you agree with on the LOA team, you have to move your contracts over. So if you say you don't want to, that's fine. The strategic sales agents just wouldn't be for you. I mean, it's just part of the requirement.
And last touch on that too, if you have a contract that you can't get an immediate release on, but you've shown intent to release, you filled it out, we'll still bring you over. So
So let's kind of on that first kind of step 1A, 1B, whatever is releases. And so, field agent, I think, is pretty it explains itself. Hey, get a release from your current FMO, top of hierarchy, to move over. That's pretty simple. I see a lot of people getting stuck on the strategic team, because they've come from a telesales or teledigital market, and like, they don't know. I always say it's like this hierarchy hell. Like, they don't know who their top of hierarchy is, or that company's gone out of business. And I've seen, multiple times where I've had agents like, I don't even know who to ask for a release. And so, just keep in mind, like, that if you do need a release, that can definitely slow the process down to where, instead of it being the 3 to 4 week, like what I say is fast, right? Now you're 2 to 3 months because we're doing intent to transfers. And again, what time of year is it, right? If it's later on in the year, as we get closer to AEP, now we're talking lockout for different carriers, right? Yeah. And so,
to speak on that, I mean, there's essentially 2 types of releases. There is the immediate release. Upline gives you a letter. I release so-and-so from these companies immediately. The other one is if they won't grant you that, you, the agent, have to go to the carrier that you're aligned with under them and self-release under the carrier, which takes 90 days. And then speaking of blackouts, us and everyone else in the industry have blackouts starting the second half of the year, starting July, essentially.
Yep.
So get all this done now, essentially. We're January, 11th to 12th right now as we're talking today. Yeah. So
it's almost Christmas.
January 10th, excuse me.
And so that's that process. And then kind of moving into, so kind of we've gotten you from onboarding, like you've contracted, right? You've gone through, you got your release, the links, again, pay attention to your emails, spam folder. I make a habit of checking my spam folder like once a week just to kind of, hey, did I miss a link? And funny story, I actually was, doing some customer service for a local plan here, and there was some communication with like an escalation team, and I reached out to the local broker manager. I'm like, hey, I haven't seen anything. And he's like, yeah, he showed me the email. And he was like, and I was like, oh, quick search. There it was in my spam folder. Yeah. So like, again, those links can go there. Communication, just keep an eye on it, right? Again, I always tell agents, this is your business, regardless of how you're contracted, right? Like whether you're an entrepreneur or intrapreneur, right? You have to like run this like a business. And so that means monitoring the, communication, right? So now we've gotten through links, right? Whether you've already been ready to sell on a previous upline, or you have to complete certifications. The thing I just want to get across on links, like you've, on the contract, you've selected, X amount of carriers, create a list, right? A spreadsheet, a checklist, whatever you want to call it. Like, did I get the link for, name the carrier, right? And then did I complete it? And the date I completed it. I even go like every year when I do, our annual certifications, I write down every single carrier and I put in the day on my little spreadsheet that I completed my certification. So there's never any like, did I go like in my, because you get busy, and in my mind, I'm like, did I forget to do, XYZ carrier? And so, any thoughts on that, Tate? Or?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest questions I think you guys can all attest to that we get is, hey, I'm done. I got the email saying I'm ready to sell. Let's get this going. And I always say, hey, look, that's awesome, and that's coming on our end. But until we get the official report from the carrier saying that you're ready to sell, we cannot do anything on our end. And I just typically say, hey, it's different per carrier, but you complete your certifications on Monday. It's going to take us 3 to 5 business days to get that report from the carrier. So I'm always like, oh, it's Monday, you got it done. Hey, by no later than this Friday, we'll have that on our end and we'll be good to get you going. But people are always confused about that. And I'm like, yeah. So.
Yeah, wait kind of till we say your RTS, because you'll get those emails from the carrier saying, hey, your RTS. We want to wait till we see it, so we don't want a turn on carrier for you in Sunfire, and then you write it and you're actually not RTS, and then you don't get commissions on that, and it can be further repercussions after that. So it's just really just covering everyone's basis there.
Yeah, and so what it is, guys, is what they're talking about is you'll get that email that says, hey, you're ready to sell, but it has to show up on an actual report, right? For us to turn it on in Sunfire. And this is kind of to cover you, right? Because I'll just share a personal story here. So I was thinking this 2 years ago. I sold a Care Plus in Florida, and I'm thinking I'm ready to sell with Humana. I technically am, because literally by one day. By one day, my RTS was off for that specific product line. And so I spend 2 hours helping this little old lady down there in Florida, and next thing you know, I'm not getting paid, right? Like that's like the least amount of my troubles. But like this can actually cause like, hey, you're out of compliance. You wrote a policy. You're not appointed in said state with said carrier. They could go after your license.
They could terminate your appointment, and you can never sell that carrier again.
Right. Yeah. And so, and another one I always get, and this is kind of maybe jumping forward, is like, hey, I'm ready to sell with, Florida Blue. And it's like, but it's not showing up in Sunfire. Great. Write it in the Florida Blue portal.
Yeah.
Right. Like, like know your tools, right? So that just kind of leads in. So hey, we've onboarded, we filled out the contract, releases, all that is done, and now we're talking about access to systems, right? Yeah. And so Sunfire is a great tool. I've used it for many years. I tell agents it's accurate to a point,
right?
It's not like to the minute, right? It's sometimes, and there's glitches. I've seen agents, I think last week we had this deal where Florida for some odd reason wasn't showing for anybody or something like that. And
happens
so
a lot, yeah.
Again, guys, just spend the time and like Sunfire is just a tool, right? Understand and know how to use your broker portals, right? Especially if we're talking DSNP and verification, like Anthem requires you to use their tool to verify eligibility because you have to put a code on the application. So it's like, got to understand those things. So that's Sunfire. Let's talk access to CRM too as well. Like that's another tool we give you at no cost. And so again, like what's the common things you guys hear around the CRM? I have a couple in mind. I'll see if you guys know the same thing.
What's my CRM number?
What's my CRM phone number? Oh my gosh. Yeah, talk about that.
Okay, so we'll create your CRM sometime after you're a little bit ready to sell so we can actually put clients into your book at that point. Your CRM phone number is assigned to you. We will find it and we'll create you a phone number. You even have to buy some phone numbers sometime depending on requests and areas and things like that. But a way to find your CRM phone number is if you add a contact, add their phone number, go to text that client, it'll have a from, and it'll display your phone number right there. So that's one way you can find your CRM number. Typically, it'll be in the email saying, hey, here's your CRM access, here's the link to get to it, but that's one way you can find it. If you can't find it, you can ask us. We can look it up. But you can find it yourself doing it that way. But I'll let you go ahead from there.
Well, I was going to say, like, that, again, that's that, like, I'm always in a hurry. I contracted 2 days ago. I need my CRM number. It's like, oh, do you have people to call? The answer is no. But I always tell agents, like, hey, once you finally do figure out how to log in and get that, like, play some test calls to friends and families. Have people call you back. Test out different headphones. If you don't know, like, for those of you working, remotely at home, like, the best thing to have is, like, a wired connection, right, to your MacBook or PC or whatever it is you're using, because Wi-Fi can be spotty sometimes.
Doesn't matter how fast it is. It dips. And so when that call comes in, it can dip. And we'll go into this a little bit later. Yeah, wired connection.
Yeah. And so, another thing, wired headphones are more reliable than Bluetooth. There's all those kinds of tips. I probably have like 6 different sets of headphones that I've had over the 3 years I've been doing kind of digital enrollments. Any thoughts on that, Tate? Or
no. I mean, you guys pretty touched it.
That's
right
good.
Over, yeah.
Another thing kind of just on the CRM and Sunfire specifically, and we'll talk Convoso here in a second, is, you've gotten access, mess around with it, right? Get in there, get a lot of questions on Sunfire, and like literally on the bottom left-hand corner, there's a question mark, right? Frequently asked questions, go in there. I mean, you've got, if you've onboarded, you're going to get a training link to our training center. Go through those videos, go through them twice, right? Don't just kind of sit there as you're waiting, to do things, like kind of just idly, like, well, I'm waiting for my next link, and I'm going to hit up Rich every day for, access to the CRM, like there's plenty of stuff to kind of educate yourself on. So let's talk. So, okay, we're kind of just rehashing this. You've onboarded, you're ready to sell. Now we're in access to systems. Talk CRM, we've talked Sunfire. Let's talk Convoso.
Yes.
So I'm going to turn this over to you guys.
Okay, so Convoso, as a field agent, you don't have to use it, but it's a great tool if you're selling teledigitally. You basically have unlimited access to leads. We're coming out with a different package going forward.
Yes.
I won't speak on that yet. I'll let Mike kind of go into that into the meetings later a little bit in the Monday meetings about Convoso, but you have basically unlimited access to leads, mainly outbound. You get some inbound sprinkled in, depending on if you're licensed in that state. If you're available, they come to you. The way I tell people to handle Convoso is like your front desk receptionist. That's where you're going to get your first introduction to your client. Hey, this client's coming in. I'm talking to them. Great. From that point in Convoso, if you're going to have any future conversations that are going to be your client or anything, I always move them to the CRM at that point, because that's attached to your number and everything like that. Convoso's done its job by getting a hold of that client for you. Now it's your job to keep in touch with that client in the CRM. At least that's my thoughts on it there.
Yeah, I mean, with Convoso, a common misconception is that it's connected to CRM, Sunfire, whatever it is. Convoso is its own system. And so when you're on your computer and you're actually selling with Convoso, it's going to be its own separate tab. It's its own separate system. It's not connected. It's not a link connected to the CRM or anything like that. As well as with that, kind of what Jordan was saying, how, you're taking the leads from Convoso and putting them in the CRM. The number that the client answered from, because the Convoso system is an AI system that calls for you out to people. The number is an auto-generated number that has a local area code. Statistically, they'll answer, more likely to answer if it's a local area code, right? A lot of times the phone number, your CRM phone number, is not the local area code to that state. And so if that person calls back that number, this is why it's important to know your CRM number and give this to your clients, prospects, people you're following up with. If they call back that number that they received first, it will come to our company, but it will automatically be routed to someone random in the company, whoever's available. And I'm sorry, but it's just the facts. They're not going to know it's your client. And if they do pull up and they see, a lot of times people just won't care. As stupid as it is. So know your CRM number. That's what you're going to use. Hey, call me back. Let's get this, enrollment done. Or, hey, let's follow up tomorrow. Now's not a good time. Here's my number, but I'll reach out anyways, because otherwise you're just going to lose them. So
a little caveat on the Convoso thing. If you've dispositioned a number that they've called in on and they try to call the Convoso number back that you were talking to, it'll try to route to you first if you've dispositioned a call.
Yeah.
But if you're not available, it's going to somebody else.
Yeah.
So
very important to disposition.
Yep.
Disposition correctly as well, and set expectations.
That's what I was going to say next.
Of if we're going to talk again, the CRM number, call and text them, set the expectation. This is my direct number. This is how you get a hold of me because I am your agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like setting that expectation, like you're building value on that call, and just say, hey, this is my direct line. If you don't want to explain your whole situation over again, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Call me here.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's nothing more than I hate than re-explaining my whole life story. So now I'm on Convoso. I got all these systems access. What are some other things that we should be looking out for and kind of helping agents understand?
Just kind of what we said earlier, like each agent situation is different. So there's going to be some one-off questions of what about this, what about that? And we can help do trainings on certain things because there's not just a one blanket training of here's everything that you need. We're going to go into situations where we have to, let's jump on a Sunfire or CRM together or Convoso, and I'll show you how. There's going to be tech errors, but generally speaking, we'll be there to help you out.
Yeah,
The way.
A really simple way to kind of look at it is like us as agent success managers, or we're basically like your personal trainers. Like we are going to personalize your workout, aka your trainings, what you need to best fit your needs. But on that note, you have to obviously let us know. So I always tell my agents, hey, you're getting ready. You're going into the deep end. You're getting started. Awesome. You're going to have questions. Reach out. We can hop on a one-on-one, but I can't help you unless you ask me, unless you tell me, because I don't know why, but agents always think I can just read their mind. We can read their mind. It's like, I needed help with this. Okay, well, I didn't know. I also manage 50 other people, I can't do that. You have to let me know, not, hey, I need training. Hey, I need CRM training. I don't know how to input a sale. Awesome. It's simple. We have recorded videos that we can send because redundancy, we're not going to do the same thing over and over again. You let me know you got a sale. You need to input it. Here you go. Here's a video showing exactly step by step how to do it. So
that leads me into one of our last important systems, Slack.
It's like we're connected, man. Yeah. I'll take that one. So Slack is very important. I tell every agent that, the best agents are there on Slack. You don't have to be communicating with everybody, but just monitoring it, because it's hard. Tay just mentioned, we're managing 50 other agents and we're also agents, right?
Yeah.
I think all of us have home appointments today.
Yeah.
Right. So we all have appointments today. Nice. And so we'll put out information on Slack because it's quick and easy. So if you're not, monitoring that, you're missing so much value. Talking about trainings, like live selling, we've kind of ramped those up. I'm getting texts from agents like, when's the live selling? I'm like, it's on Slack.
Yeah.
Right.
On Slack.
It's on Slack. I'm not going to create another, for a while there, I was using GroupMe, and I'm like, I'm just going to use Slack. if you want to be a part of this team, that's kind of one of those things. Be present in Slack. And, you know, what does Mike always say? Your best ability
is your availability.
Is your availability.
Cue the
right?
image there.
That's another thing. Because kind of leading into the next part is before we wrap this up is, you know, agents, like, again, this is your business, right? Spend time off hours, right? So working on your business, educating yourself, right? Like I've, you know, kind of half step back, sorry, but like another one I get a lot of is like scripting and training. Mm-hmm. And I always just like poke my own eyeballs out. Like, yeah, scripting is good. I have a 14-page script that's approved and it's great. I hope you never use it. Sorry. Like, be compliant, the TPMO and the scope of appointment, yes. But like, if you don't know how to talk to somebody, like they're a regular person, like I can't teach you that. Yeah. Right? You have to either have it in an innate ability just to be able to talk to people or develop that skill over time.
Yeah. Right. I think we can do a whole episode on just scripting and call flow, which I think we probably do.
Well, yeah.
But like scripting essentially is you have your introduction, figure out what works for you. Yeah. Use the TPMO statements. I'll run to the hills with this statement. I hate the TPMO statement, but everybody's got to say it. Doesn't matter if it's us or another company. And then scope. You do that order, you can kind of configure your own script. But
and I try not, when I use it, I try not to like spew it out like as fast as I can. I kind of make fun of it. Make fun of the scope of appointment. I like to make people kind of feel at ease. Like it's not this super official thing. So that's scripting, right? You just got to be able to talk about Medicare. So that leads me into like education. Like you are a professional. You've got a state license. You signify to the government that you have the capability to go out and help people, right? And so you should be educated on, you know, med subs, SEPs, Part D, all the different intricacies of Medicare. And we won't even talk about, you know, ACA. That's a whole nother animal, right? But like either way, educate yourself in those off hours. Like look for trainings from us, from the carriers. Like I'm doing one next week, you know, on TRICARE and VA, even though I have TRICARE and VA and I know about it, but I'm like, okay, what are the things that I'm missing? And so I'm just, you know, kind of building up my own knowledge, right? So those are the things I would ask you to do, agents, is like continually educate yourself, because that's the thing that sets you apart on the phone call, not the TPMO disclaimer, right? What sets you apart is your ability to talk about, hey, so, you know, I just turned 65, but I'm still covered under my husband's employer coverage, and should I take Medicare? What does that conversation look like? If you don't even know how Medicare and employer coverage works, or TRICARE and VA, or Indian Health Services, or how Medicaid, like, you're going to sound like you don't know what you're talking about. You may be able to get away with it, but like in long term, you're going to need to know some of that stuff. So that's what I would just kind of push agents to do, is that's the secret sauce, not scripting, not, you know, how fast can you get the TPMO disclaimer out?
Yeah. So on that, something I told my new agents who haven't really sold Medicare much, they're so worried on, I need to know everything about every plan in every area. I'm like, that's great. I don't. I don't. I know a lot of it, being in the industry for 10 years, like certain situations in different states, but I always tell them the best thing you can do is be an expert in your customer, be an expert in your client, figure out them, because then that's really going to guide you of where to go with these carriers and what plan's going to be good for them in what situation. If you become an expert in them and they realize, oh, hey, this guy knows my situation, that's how you're going to keep your clients. It's retention. Speaking of training, there is a free training January 21st and 22nd here at the Lehigh office, 9 to 4 both days. This is in person only, and this is not going to be online, but it's free. If you can make it out here, it's free. Come join us. We'll have a good time. We're going to have a really good turnout. If you are one of our remote agents who have met the qualifications, we can help with flight and hotels. Reach out to one of us about that.
Yep, that's coming up pretty quick. So that's definitely the training piece. Anything else as we wrap up? We like to keep these around 30 minutes. And if we didn't get everything in this one, we'll do another one down the road. Any final thoughts, guys?
I think it's good.
Okay. I think we're good.
All right, well, let's wrap this one up. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully this helps you in some capacity. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.